This decides everything for the Toronto Raptors, as this team has been overachieving as of late in regards to getting some wins, in terms of development, in terms of everything out there on the basketball court, and fans are getting amped up, scrapping the tank. But there's one thing that will actually decide how the direction of this Raptor season ends up going. So we'll discuss that, including some major updates regarding Toronto basketball in general, which are pretty exciting. So we'll dive into all of that in this video. But before we do, folks, we have an exciting announcement, as this video is brought to you by Rentals.ca, who are proud partners of Team Canada. While they've been supporting our national team defend their home court in international competition, they've been helping thousands of Canadians find their home court all across the country. Whether you're in Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, Calgary, Halifax, Winnipeg, Mississauga, Edmonton, Victoria, St. John's, from coast to coast, Rentals.ca helps you find the perfect place and price for you all across the country. Their website's clean, it's extremely easy to use, and you can pinpoint exactly on the map where you'd like to move, and Rentals.ca has you covered. So shout out to Rentals.ca for supporting the channel, for supporting our Team Canada, and frankly, most importantly, supporting you guys and finding your next place to move. So check out Rentals.ca. Their link is in the pinned comment as well as the description down below. They're the largest rental network all across Canada, so definitely check them out, because they're gonna have the most and best options, and they're looking out for you guys. So shout out to Rentals.ca, and definitely check them out in the links down below. But let's dive into the news. Let's dive in what's happening, because first we do have a very exciting kind of announcement with what's going on, if I can press the right buttons. But we have a major Toronto Raptors basketball announcement. As we all know, the WNBA is coming to Toronto, right? It's coming 2026, and a lot of people are amped up, especially with how hyped the WNBA has been, with Caitlin Clark coming in. Obviously, Paige Beckers is going to be one of those players coming up. So, Angel Reese, there's lots of rivalries, lots of stuff going on. There's a lot more hype around the WNBA than there was even just a couple years ago, and Toronto's getting a team, it feels like, at the perfect time. And we all know Larry Tannenbaum is the man who's really interested in bringing in the WNBA. It wasn't really MLSE, it wasn't Rogers, it wasn't these types of places. Larry Tannenbaum had this vision, had this thing going on, and basically we're seeing it come to fruition now. Now, there was a lot of debate, there was a lot of chatter about what the team name would be for Toronto, and we got that revealed. That was announced with the logo, as it's going to be the Toronto Tempo as the team name for Toronto. Honestly, I'm liking that. I like the double T's. I like how the Toronto Tempo, flows. Again, that's a solid name, and I think the consensus of people are kind of liking the name. The thing that I've seen split is, do people like the actual logo for the Toronto Tempo? I still need to be sold on it a little bit. I'm not sure what the color scheme is. It's got the, people love the purple. They want the purple brought back, but this is almost, you're leaning into maroon with this, and kind of that weird, baby blue color. We'll see if this ends up being the specific color scheme, if this ends up being the final logo. Again, 2026 when it comes around. So again, I looked at this initially. I like the name. I like the Temple. They're doing some really We the North kind of vibe style commercials for this team, in terms of the branding, in terms of things that are coming out. So I'm liking the direction. Again, Team Newfoundland out here always wore maroon, so if they leaned fully into the maroon, I could vibe with that. I could jive with it. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I like that they didn't just come out with an absolutely just brutal name, something that everyone would just unanimously hate, because that's sometimes the case with team names and things along those lines. So happy that they picked a solid name. The logo, again, might take some getting used to. Kind of looks like a weird version of the Indiana Pacers logo, which makes sense, I guess, setting the pace, setting the tempo. Maybe they got some inspiration out there at that point, but we'll see how the color scheme, we'll see how that looks. But I want to know what you guys think, because I haven't seen any just really strong opinions on especially the name, but some people are going back and forth on logo. I kind of want to see what you guys have to say in the comment section down below about the Toronto Tempo. I think that's something I can catch on. That's something that could definitely catch on there for city of Toronto. So big stuff there. We knew we were getting a WNBA team, but I'm liking that the name isn't something that's absolutely cooked. So good stuff there on Tannenbaum, all the folks that are kind of managing this WNBA team expansion. But obviously, with the Raptors Digest, I'm sure once the WNBA comes, we'll be locking in a little bit to some of that WNBA action. But the Toronto Raptors are the team that's currently playing right now, and we have one thing that decides everything for the Toronto Raptors. Because, again, I've been fairly outspoken about how this season, I'm leaning in. I'm excited, regardless win, loss, draw. I want to see development from our young players. I want to see this squad really get better in terms of the young talent improving and taking their games, taking that step up in terms of improvements. And whether we win, we lose, I don't care. But this team, there's been a lot of people that are looking at these capture the flag fans and saying, hey, that's a bunch of nonsense. This team is, 5-5 their last stretch of games. They're getting some W's. They're getting some wins. Beat some pretty solid teams out there in the Eastern Conference. And now it's kind of time to do away with the tank and make that push out there in the Eastern Conference. And that is definitely something that is a legitimate possibility. The East is wide open right now. There are a lot of opportunities for the Toronto Raptors to go on a winning run and say, hey, this is our time. This is our year. We're a little bit ahead of this rebuild strategy, similar to what happened in 2021, and we'll get to that. And I'm seeing a lot of just takes out there on Twitter and Reddit across these different places saying, hey, the Raptors are about to really make that push for the playoffs. And I've been open. I'm rooting for this Toronto Raptors team to win. When they're in the games, I'm out there, screaming at my TV, getting amped up for this squad, saying, Masai Ujiri, yes, we want you to have all the assets at play to, make these types of moves, to get these types of, young, talented draft picks. But obviously, of course, if we have all that talent, there's no need in purposely tanking. If a young core of Scottie Barnes, RJ Barrett, Immanuel Quickley when he's back healthy, Gradey Dick, Jakob Poeltl, all these types of guys can get us some wins, can get us some W's. There's still a very young, put-together roster with Ujiri, with Jacoby Walter, with other young players, and Jamal Shead, and Jonathan Mobo. There's enough young talent here that if this core group can win right now, I am definitely cool with. I'm not out here screaming, lose, lose, lose every single night. But I don't want to get too carried away with thinking that a team that is in year one of a rebuild, that Masai Ujiri's openly discussed, hey, we're retooling, we want flexibility, we want all this type of stuff. It's just going to magically, despite being still the fifth worst record in the NBA, win a ton of games, get a bunch of W's, despite the fact our team's playing really well, like in terms of individuals, in terms of talent, in terms of all that type of stuff. There's no denying that a team with RJ Barrett has a legitimate shot at winning any given night, especially when Scottie Barnes and the main core of the roster is back together. But the reality is, the Raptors did get some good wins against the Pacers and the Heat, but there is a bit of a bloodbath of a schedule coming up now. We had a really tough start to the season in terms of schedule, and now it's just picking right back up again. In the coming weeks, we face off against the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Dallas Mavericks, the New York Knicks, the Miami Heat, who are going to be looking for revenge out there on the road now at this point. The Bulls, which should be a winnable game. The Brooklyn Nets should be probably a winnable game, especially Cam Thomas out. That's a couple of potential, W's of the Raptors are locked in, getting things going. But then it gets right back to the Houston Rockets, who've been good. The Knicks, the Grizzlies, the Hawks, who have been sneaky good this season, and the Celtics, right? The Nets been better this season. Then you play the Magic, who are red hot, the Bucks, the Knicks, the Cavs. Again, 4 teams that are really, really at a high level. The Pistons, very winnable. And then, the Golden State Warriors are struggling as of late, but we're at the top of the Western Conference or stretch. The Celtics, the Bucks, and the Magic. Now, I've said this without looking at the schedule, without sort of really having the schedule on top of mind in regards to making this statement. But this team, I'm not rooting to lose, till we're getting through at least midway through January. At least. If we're rooting, especially before the new year, what are we doing out here? I'm rooting for the Toronto Raptors to win every single one of these games. However, this is going to be a tough schedule. And I know a lot of people are getting carried away, are getting amped up, as they should. I will never accuse or frustrate anyone with getting carried away, getting a little bit amped up, getting a little bit hyperbolic about this Toronto Raptors squad. It's the pot calling the kettle black, whatever that saying is, whatever that phrase is. I'm very hyperbolic, I know, amped up, get very invested in this Toronto Raptors team. That's real. I'm not getting frustrated with anyone, but saying that the tank is over, saying that, hey, there's no chance, the Raptors are guaranteed, I just want to see us get through this stretch of season. And if we come out through this really tough stretch, because the back end of this NBA schedule for the Raptors is very light, very, very light, out there in March and April. But if we get through this relatively 500, back in the play-in picture and stuff, then this team can be in a legitimate spot to make a run in the Eastern Conference. That's the reality, and I don't mind it because, again, we're seeing the gems that Masai Ujiri is able to find in the back end of the draft. So that value and experience, and Masai's ability to scout and find just gems, in the mid-lottery, mid-different areas, then that's still worth it. That's still a positive. That's still all good for this Raptors team. But again, to really just write off the fact that tank and stuff this early on, I mean, it might be a little bit of a jump. It might be a little bit of a stretch, but I'm all here for it. But it's really going to be this stretch of games that decides this Toronto Raptors season. Frankly, I think come really January 21st, depending on the record is, if the team is at that point really in a position where bottom of the Eastern Conference, a little bit of a dumpster fire, a little bit of a mess. Even the games continue to be good. We continue to have that ethical tank, ethical sort of direction and stuff going on there. The Raptors are going to make some more selling maneuvers ahead of this year's trade deadline rather than maybe buying moves or sticking the course or doing all these types of things. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about this Toronto Raptors team, about the direction. I mentioned it earlier, 2021, we were kind of faced with a very similar decision. This Raptors team with Masai Ujiri at the helm had guys stepping up. Fred VanVleet was playing at an all-star level at that point. Pascal Siakam has taken that really big, jump for this team. And then you have OG Anunoby. You had Gary Trent Jr. was playing very well. You had different guys. Precious Achiuwa showed a ton of promise out there at that time for this Raptors squad. There was a lot of high upside, it felt like, on this Raptors team. Masai Ujiri said, hey, we're going to give this group a chance. There's a lot of guys on the championship team. There were a lot of players that excited people at that point, and then it led to a couple years of mediocrity. And then Masai said, okay, we're done with this. No more playing for all that type of stuff. You traded away everybody at the end of last season, and now I think he's going to facilitate that rebuild unless there's a really, really golden opportunity. I know this is a very different group with RJ Barrett, with Scottie Barnes, with IQ once he comes back than we had before. But again, there's similar stories that are happening and getting set up here now at this point. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. You guys, the best thing is subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.